All right. All right. It looks like we are live. Thanks everybody for joining us again. We got another incredible episode of the Jim Gale Show coming right up here. First, my man Jim, good to see you, buddy. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Matthew. It's been an epic few days. I mean, the last couple of years have been off the charts, but the last couple of days, it's like new levels all the time. I had spent a day and a half with General Blaine Holt, and he is a huge advocate for what we're doing. So now we're collaborating. He and his company, which he's a big part of, called Vault Enterprises, they launched satellites up into space to using a technology that's infinitely better and less expensive than the current way to do it. All right, they're phenomenal. Elise McGill and Carl, their CEO, they're just amazing people who are all about let's find ways to do things better. So, and by the way, how are you doing, Matthew? You've got a lot of snow up there, don't you?
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. Well, the weather's warming up, and that's always a good thing. I'm really itching for the sun to come back and spend more time with us overall. But that's part of being Canadian, I guess, getting used to some of this stuff. You think I'd be used to it 100% by now, and I think I'm overused to it, actually, and at the point where I don't need it so much anymore, and I would prefer to live my life in perpetual summer. Although, I do really love to ski. So getting out on the mountains and skiing, it's phenomenal. But at this point in my life, I'd rather fly to the mountain, have my few days of snow, and then be able to fly away from it again.
Yep. Well, we'll see you in Florida here real soon.
Yeah, that's the intention. And today on the show, this is a gentleman I've known for a long time, actually. It's about probably 10, 12 years. And just someone I've always had incredible admiration for what he's been able to do in his own athletics. And we know what reaching the pinnacle of any sport, what it takes is just nothing short of miraculous. The hours of dedication, endless hours of dedication, both in the gym, on the training mat, at home, when no one is there watching. What are you doing when no one is there to cheer you on? And I'm really honored, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Randy Blake to the show today, 5-time world champion kickboxer. Randy, my man, welcome to the show, buddy.
Oh, man, that was a beautiful introduction. Thank you guys so much for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. It's an honor to have you here. And I look forward to diving into some of your experience. And first of all, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit of background about yourself and what got you to the level you're at today and how we here?
Woo, man. So I've been in martial arts for going on 30 years. I know that's really hard to believe, but I'm no spring chicken anymore. I've been competing in kickboxing for going on 16, 17 years. I'm a 5-time world champion kickboxer. I am a author, a father, and I'm just out to make the world a better place. So,
man, that's beautiful. Yeah. We talk a lot about vision in life. Like our whole business is built on the vision of Food Force Everywhere and freedom. And visions are so inspiring. In fact, Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. How did you come to conceive and believe that you could be a world champion?
Wow. So we'll go back to way back. I wanted to be like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So that was like my all-time goal. So I go off to college to try out, and I just could not make the team. I mean, my dad took me after high school all over the country. I tried out, at least 17 schools, and I got the word no. I'm from Oklahoma, so I tried out at a junior college here in Oklahoma, and the tryouts went well. But the guy walks up to me, the coach, and he just says, well, you did a good job, but he says, we just don't have the money to add you on the team. You can walk on. kind of go through the motions, and we'll see how things go next year. If we have enough money, we can, give you a partial half or a full scholarship, depending on if you just kind of pay your dues.
Yeah.
So I ended up dropping out of college. It was a rough stage of my life, had some things going on, and I found martial arts again. So I re-enrolled myself back into martial arts. It was giving me something to do. And on the weekends, a lot of people don't know this, I was a bouncer. So daytime martial artist, working on my craft, nighttime, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, making $10 an hour, choking people out, just making money, cleaning up beer bottles and all that. And in martial arts, you have what's called sparring. Well, semi-sparring, meaning you're just going through the motions. You're not trying to knock anybody out. You're not trying to hurt somebody because we got to go to work the next day, school, whatever you're doing. The instructor at that time, he takes me over in the corner and he says, Randy, I think you need to go try the fighter's class. Like, you need to go give it a shot. So at that time, I'm like, okay, well, why? So I brushed it off. A couple of weeks go by, I'm going back to class and we're sparring. And he just kept planting little seeds like, man, I think you ought to come try this class out. Come try this class out. About a month or so later, he takes me by the gi top, takes me in the corner and says, please, Randy, you need to come try this class out. I mean, after all, you can't hit hard in karate class, but in fight class, we can hit hard. And you need to know what it feels like to hit somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I guess that might be pretty cool. So I gave it a shot, and that instructor comes into class with me. I'm hanging out with these fighters who were already getting ready for fights. They were preparing and training and going at it. I did pretty well for my first time in there. And that instructor said, Randy, you can become a world champion one day if you will stick with this class. Like, yeah, and it gives me chills to this day because he says, you got what it takes. I know you don't see it right now, but if you would just stay in here, hang out with these guys, hang out with the coaches, see what these guys are doing, learn from them, grow from them, become ingrained in the sport, you can become a world champion. Now, at that time, I was only 19 years old. So and in the world we live in, we see somebody like The Rock, we automatically compare ourselves to them, right? So in the world of fighting, I'm thinking, okay, Mike Tyson, all these big time stars, and I'm thinking I can't hang with these guys. I'm 19 years old. What in the heck does this guy see in me? Because I can't see it in myself. So that was really my defining touch right there. I stuck with it. About a year later, I had my first amateur fight. My mom didn't like it. She says, you can be anything you want to be in the world. You're going to go in here in his ring and let some grown men beat on you. And I ended up knocking the guy out in 20 seconds. And then, shortly after that, I'm fighting in front of Chuck Norris. And then shortly after that, I'm fighting for world titles. So it's been a absolutely tremendous ride. But I would say that's really where it stemmed from, was in that moment when I was 19 years old. I had an instructor who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Yeah. And I truly do believe in that. Sometimes it takes somebody else to really see something in you can't see in yourself, but it's still up to you to take that chance, and you have to go put the hard work in and bust through that door and make it happen.
Okay, so this is so profound. So you were told that this vision you could accomplish being a world champion, and then you started adopting the vision. Was it little by little? I mean, that moment was a world changer for you, but how did your adoption of your BS, your belief system, how did that come into your soul?
So for me, keep in mind, I was already a bouncer. And I was already around people I shouldn't have been around. So I knew that wasn't for me, but it was kind of validation that I can fit in with these people. I was trying to fit in and be cool,
Yeah.
right? So I was around all the alcohol and the drugs. I was around all that stuff. I didn't do it, but I was just as guilty. But on the other contrary, I'm training with these guys. I'm the young buck. I'm getting good examples of how to eat right, how to train and hit things hard and go out and win. And that's where I had to make my decision as far as, where is this going? Because that instructor who said that I should do the fighting, I didn't see that guy after that. So it's just like it's so mind blowing because and I kind of talked about it in my book a little bit, but to his respects, I told myself let's not say what really happened, but I think it's safe to say on air, he overdosed.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, what really changed was the positive reinforcement I was getting being around these coaches. I think we all need coaches. I think the best coaches in the world have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think knowing this today, because I'm 36, but 19, I didn't know it. It just, the validation felt good. When you get some attaboy, good job, man, we like having you around. I think that was all incentive to keep coming back. And it was something different. And it put me on a path that felt normalized rather than being in the club, partying, listening to loud music, being around drunk people. And once I started fighting, honestly, when I got in there and knocked the guy out in 20 seconds, I said, this is great. And at that time, I was only training really twice a week. I wasn't training hard. I wasn't fully dedicated to the sport as a 19-year-old. I was basing everything purely off athleticism.
Yeah.
My diet was still not where it is today. And I said, well, hey, I think anybody would take that. If you can get in there and knock somebody out for 20 seconds, that's great.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I could do this once a month. Sure. But that's really my vision. And that's how I validated myself to keep on that path.
Yeah.
It became easy in my mind, taking that course of a 20-second knockout.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. Somebody planted a seed, you took it in, you started nourishing it, you started adding evidence to the belief system. The 20-second knockout was a big evidence for you to say, I've got something here, huh?
Yes. Yeah. And let me tell you, that is one of the best feelings. I mean, I will say next to sex, we're all guys here. That's up there.
Wow.
The final pull. So
that's amazing.
And getting your hand raised from not just getting your hand raised, but it's more all the hard work that you put into something. So even though I was only training twice a week at that time, it still felt good to say, well, hey, if I'm going here twice a week and I'm getting punched on and punching people and running, I'm doing something that feels good. So so it kind of makes you want to go back and see how much further you can take it.
Yeah.
Wow. I was as you were telling that story, I was wondering if it was the coach that I had spoke with in the past, Dale, right? That's his name.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't him.
No, it wasn't him. I was wondering if it was, but Dale he's the gentleman you still work with today, right?
Well, I got a new team of coaches now.
Okay.
But he was a former coach and former instructor, one of my instructors. But that's the beauty of martial arts. You start somewhere and you end somewhere else. And so, you may have one guy who can open up the door, but there's multiple guys you can learn from.
Yeah.
And in martial arts, there is no best style. How they may say, well, we believe in, just jujitsu or just wrestling or just karate, or just Muay Thai is the greatest. Well, my argument to that is actually it's the person who makes that style. So if you can make that style work for you, that's what ultimately makes you the greatest. And, I learned that from Bruce Lee. You take all the greatest aspects of every style and you blend it put it in a blender, shake it up, and you put that into your soul. And then now those styles that you've acquired, that is now you. So it's not necessarily karate or jiu-jitsu. But so for me, I've had a chance to train all over the world. I've trained American style kickboxing. I've trained Dutch style kickboxing. I've trained Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, and you just take all those aspects and you just blend them together, and that's what makes you the fighter or you the martial artist.
That's beautiful. Growing up a wrestler, I just happened to live in Minnesota. Dan Chandler, who was captain of the Olympic team in 1980 when the U.S. boycotted the Russian Olympics, which just sucked. But anyway, he was one of my coaches. Bronze medalist Jim Martinez was one of my coaches. Good friend Dave Zuniga, a world a champ and Olympian, was one of my wrestling partners. So to have those different styles mixed in, I think having different coaches is really important, don't you?
Oh yeah, because the reality is, like, and you would know if you, because I'm assuming you competed as well. There's different sizes, so everyone that you train or compete against is not going to be one height, one size. So you can't always just train just for one way of doing things. So the more ways of doing things that you can figure out and put together makes you that much more of a dangerous fighter.
Yeah.
So you had that tipping point, or at least that the seed planted when it came to the belief in your ability by someone who told you can do this. Then you had an experience which validated that. Then what came next? Because now you've got this, this one win under your belt. You're feeling on top of the world. I'm invincible. But that's not the reality yet. So what happened after that?
Man, I've been so blessed and so fortunate. My career really steamrolled really fast. So this is like the part where it just like you get to the top of that roller coaster, and then now it's time to just go down and just go, baby. It's time to fly. So okay, so that was my first amateur fight.
Yeah.
I took another amateur fight maybe a few months later, and keep in mind I wasn't training because I'm thinking to myself, okay, why? Didn't make any sense, right? I got an easy 20-second knockout, cool. So I took that fight, same exact thing, like knockout, right? So my coaches decided, okay, let's turn pro. So I turned pro, and that fight took a little bit of a turn, a little bit, because it was a fight where I was challenged. Because keep in mind, I already had 2 easy fights. I turned pro, and I'm fighting a guy, and I beat the guy, but it was a very tough fight because I was gassed, I was out of shape, I wasn't training. I'm talking about my diet was pot pies, chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken, all the good stuff that you shouldn't have, right? I mean, and I'm 19 years old. I got a 6-pack, right? So I could eat anything and still look like I was in shape. I mean, I'm going to McDonald's. I mean, my diet was no joke. 5 McChickens, 1 large fry, and a strawberry milkshake. So I would alternate days between Mondays would be my McDonald's day, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays would be my Wendy's day. So I would go and get 5 Junior Bacon cheeseburgers for 99 cents a piece, and I would get a large fry and get a chocolate frosty. So that happened, and that was kind of my defining moment to take training a little bit more serious. And so I did. And right about that time, I got invited to what was called at that time the Chuck Norris World Combat League. Wow. So for the people who don't know what that is, and I hope that you know who Chuck Norris is. Yeah. Because sometimes I forget, we're 2023 and a lot of these young bucks are like, who's Chuck Norris? Who's that? Who's Bruce Lee? He's like, okay. But yeah, so Chuck Norris back in, let's say 2006, 2007, he invented this league called the World Combat League, WCL. So you have to imagine it was a lot like basketball and football. It was a team concept. So your individualized fight didn't really matter. It was about the accumulation of points that went to your team's score. So you had several weight classes, and each guy would get paired up in their weight class, and they would come out. They would fight 1 3-minute round. Okay. And after all the weight classes fought, okay, you would go backstage, halftime, just like basketball, football, all the professional sports. You would go back, you would have a 25, 30-minute halftime, and then you would come back out, strategize, go through the whole process again, and then the team with the most score or the highest score, they win the fight. So keep in mind, I was invited to this team, 2 amateur fights, 1 professional fight. I was invited because there was really nobody else left in the state of Oklahoma. So I fought for the Oklahoma Destroyers. And it was kind of like, well, we can't afford nobody else. And you kind of fit this description. So we can just kind of throw you on the team as an alternate. So you have your bench warmers, which was hint, hint, this guy. And then you got the big guys, your starters. So this league was nothing but champions, world champions, all experienced guys. I'm talking about when you're considered experienced, you've got 20 plus fights. So I had no business being in this league at all, but I was reassured, okay, the guy who you're backing up, he's the man. He's on all the billboards, he's in all the magazines, all the TV shows. He's a knockout artist. He'll never lose, ever. So you never have to worry about it. But what we're doing is we want to set you up for next season.
Yeah.
So your job is to come on, be a cheerleader, be a water boy, be around these guys and learn, what the world class athletes do. Like you got your local athletes who are down here, and up here it's a whole nother step above. So these guys know things and have done things that these guys down here have never done. So we can put you up here with these guys, that just rubs off on you. It's like that rubbing off effect, right? So a few fights went through. I never fought, right? There was the third fight that I was actually on the team. It was in San Antonio, Texas. The guy who I was backing up at that time, he gets out there with his opponent, and they're just going bang for bang. I mean, going at it for 3 minutes. And surely I'm thinking to myself, okay, he won that round.
Yeah.
So they come to a judge's call, and they called it draw, which is no big deal because my team was still up. They already had 3 or 4 knockouts prior to that guy fighting. So after all the starters fought, we go backstage, you warm up, you re-strategize, you take about 25, 30 minutes, figure out what we're going to do a little bit differently. So the guy that I was backing up, he's not warming up like he should have been. So he comes directly from out in the crowd. He comes backstage, finds a chair, and he just sits down. I'm talking about like, imagine running a 5K, 10K, and I mean, you got your elbows on your kneecaps and you just crouch forward like in exhaustion. So I'm going to say about 4 coaches on the team. So they all go over to him. Hey, man, what's up? You need to be warming up. You okay? You need some water? You need a stretch? He goes, nah, I'm just not in the mood. I'm not going out. That's what he says. I'm not going out. And so they're all like, well, you got to go back out. You have to. We got 25 minutes to warm up. We can ice whatever. Like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, it's my shoulder. It's my good shoulder. It's the shoulder. It's the arm that I use to knock people out. And they're like, but you got another arm. You got 2 legs. Like, you may not knock them out tonight, but you got to get out there and score some points so we can accumulate for the team score. You got to think about the team, dude. This ain't about you. And if you get knocked out, you got to go out on your shield. Yeah. And so his pride and his ego was like, no. That guy was tough and he hits hard. I ain't going out there because I ain't got my right arm. So, I mean, they tried for a good 15 minutes to get this guy, encourage him to get out there. And he just said, look, guys, no, no, no. And so, so at that time, in my head, I'm like, well, I think this might be my chance because after all, I was dressed up. So it wasn't like I was in my street clothes. I mean, I still dressed out like any teammate would, whether you play or not. You still dress up. I mean, my hands were wrapped and everything. So one of the coaches walks over to me and kind of gives me a pat on the shoulder. Well, Randy, I hate to do this to you, but I gotta throw you out here. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm confident, but in his mind, he's thinking, okay, it'd be like sending your son or daughter out and throwing them in a cage full of lions. Like you're already thinking, okay, I'm never going to see you again because shortly after he told me that, he started talking really fast. Hey man, I just want you to know I love you. I care about you so much. You'll always be one of my favorite fighters. And I just want you to know, like, dude, like whatever happens, like, please don't hate me for like he was panicking because I mean, like I said, even those guys as bench guys had 20 plus fights. So I'm literally the only guy in the whole league with 2 amateur fights and 1 professional fight. So it's just like it's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
And so everything is about strategy, right? So the other team's coach, he looks over and he goes, oh, that's the way it's going to be. He goes, oh, you're going to change your guy up because I wanted those guys to go back out and finish it in that second half. Yeah. Well, fine. He goes, oh, he's changing up. Cool. We got something for Randy Blake because we already know he only has 1 professional fight and 2 amateur fights. But my guy, he's got like 20 fights. And he's never been knocked out before. So my guy can handle your guy like that. So luckily, that coach, he switched out his opponent too. So right. So now you got 2 fresh guys going up. Yeah, you got 2 fresh guys going out in the second half. And the last thing one of the coaches said was, hey Randy, use your reach. And so I just kind of looked at him like, that doesn't make any sense. Like you could have given me way better advice than use your reach. Like throw some combinations, throw some kicks, keep your hands up, do something. Like what does use your reach mean, right? To a 19-year-old. But when I tell this story, I have to be real and say, okay, well, if I was an older man telling a younger man today, what do I tell somebody who I've never actually coached before? And he's never been on that big stage before. So we get out there, we're moving around, we're throwing punches back and forth. I happened to throw a spinning back kick. I hit him right in his gut and I dropped him. And I thought he wasn't going to get back up, but he got back up. And I noticed he just kept holding his stomach a little bit. So he got his 8 count. I mean, I charged over there and I threw another spinning back kick. And this time I said, all right, I'm going to jump into it. Because you have 2 types of spinning back kicks. You have your traditional spinning back kick where you're essentially on the ground. Then you have your jump spinning back kick where you lift up off the ground and you want to drive the ribs back to the spine. Like that's the goal. You're putting your whole body weight into it, right? So that's what I did in my second one. So that time he didn't get up. And so that's how I won the fight. And that's how I got my nickname Boom Boom. But the coolest part about that whole story was the crowd was cheering and I didn't really hear the crowd. I just happened to look over and all I see was Chuck Norris sitting front center stage, cheering, bowing like, woo, like, yeah, like, and I'm just going, dude, this must be a dream. I'm slapping myself. I'm trying to like tap into it. Like Chuck Norris is cheering for me, man. It was so cool. But yeah, so that's how I got my nickname. And the coolest part about that fight to me was performing in front of Chuck Norris in his league, in front of those people. And honestly, that's when the career just really just skyrocketed and just took off.
Man.
Wow.
That is so cool. Now, Matthew, do you have some exact?
No, go. You got some.
Okay, question is, it's the losses. Like you were sharing at the beginning, you had years of failure, or at least a period of what you considered failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that it seems like the time that really motivated you, like I'm not giving up, and then you're looking for something. Tell us about a couple of the profound failures that were your best teachers during this process.
Man, I got so many of those. So
Yes.
are we saying like just in general, just a failure, or are you saying like something that ended up being a victory, or one that ended up being a loss, or?
Yeah, failures usually turn it. They're in a way they're the most important victories because overcoming the idea of the failure itself. Right.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back on my failures, every one of those was needed for me to learn the lesson that got me here now.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your biggest lessons, I guess? It could be called failures or really lessons learned.
So this one, okay, so this one is really awesome. So that's a good point. So I won my first fight in the WCL. So keep in mind, so that would have made 2 professional fights, 2 amateur fights.
Yeah.
So I'm still not quite convinced that I really should change up my diet. I should be doing things a little bit different. So we rematched that team a month later.
Yeah.
That same exact team. And the guy that was in front of me, because even though I won that fight, I actually kind of earned like some respect from the guys, because those guys knew nothing about me on the team. So it was like, okay, now you're one of us. We like you now, but you're still the young buck, and you're gonna get my towels and get my water bottles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we rematched that same team like a month later, and I remember the guy that was a starter on that team, on the team that I was on. Well, he decides, well, let's get together and train, and so we started working out together, and he was showing me some of the movements that he would do, whether it be lifting weights or hitting a bag or just in general. It was all good stuff. And kind of that same aspect happened. He was like, well, I'm gonna beat this guy, and if I don't knock him out the first round, I'm gonna knock him out the second round. So in my mind, I went back to, okay, well, I guess I'm not gonna fight this time for real, because it was like, well, Randy has such a good performance, and now I got to show him what I'm made of.
Yeah.
So we rematched that same team, and he rematched his opponent from the first time. They're going at it, bang, 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 and they came to another draw. They came to another draw. And so I said, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to go out. He said it. And so, and sure enough, the guy comes back second half, and he's warming up. But then he says, man, you know what, Randy, I think you should go out there. I got him nice and tired for you. And so the coach from another team, he comes looking over, seeing, who's going out in the second half. And he goes, oh, it's Randy. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mike Shepard. So Mike Shepard, if you don't know who Mike Shepard is, Mike at that time was already a 2-3-time world champion in kickboxing.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who the guy on my team was having difficulties with. So, but that coach said, oh, okay, Randy, you broke my alternate's ribs last month. Let's see if you can do that same thing to Mike Shepard.
Wow.
So guess who my second fight in the WCL was? It was against Mike Shepard.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that he was a world champion until after the fact. Right?
Yeah.
But so I went out there with confidence from my previous fight. That's what you bring always into your your future fights. And so I did pretty good. I landed some kicks. I landed some punches. But he ended up getting his hand raised.
Yeah.
So I got a few points taken away from me because they wanted full throttle action the whole time. They wanted 3 minutes balls to wall, no backing up, no holding, no clinching, no nothing, right? So I think there's a few times I got penalty points from like holding, stalling. I think I fell one time, and so I just started just getting points deducted. But even at that, you know, I think he was still the better man that night, and I learned a lot from that. But the coolest thing that I learned was the after party. So after every fight, every event, you always have an after party, and it's exactly what it is. Whether you drink or not, you get together, you just celebrate, win or lose, whatever. So I remember Mike walking up to me and said, "Hey man, you know, you did a really good job. I just want you to know that." Because he was like, you know, the guy who I fought twice previous, you know, he was being a little punk. You know, I wanted to settle the score with him. And you get out here, he goes, and I already knew you didn't have that much experience. And he said, at that time, that is what I had to use against you. He goes, now you were clearly more athletic than me, but he goes, in this world of fighting, in sports in general, you can have all the athleticism in the world, but if you don't have the skill set, the technique, the mindset, the mentality, all that stuff, you're not going to make it very far. But he goes, but I can tell you, if you'll just stick with your coaches and stick to this game, you will make it far because you do have what it takes. And so that meant the world to me because that showed me that even though in fighting, you can compete in a ring, in a cage, and that's totally fine. That's just competition. But guess what? You can also be a family man. You can be somebody else outside of fighting. And so it was at that defining moment that I realized that fighters aren't bad people. They're not killers. They're not, yes, we're trying to kill each other in the ring, but that's competition.
Yeah.
So I would say roughly 5, 10, 15 minutes right after that. Next thing I know, you've got about 10, 15 guys kind of making this crowd as if there was a fight going on. Like, and this is at the after party. So I'm looking over and I'm going, what the heck is that? So I go over and it's Mike Shepard in the middle, but it's just him just talking. So I go over and I go listen because I'm like, well, let me just go see what this is. So Mike is literally breaking down everything that he does to get ready for fights in his past, his present, his future, what he got ready or how he got ready to fight me and the guy that didn't want to go back out. He broke it down. This is what I do to become a world champion. This is what athletes do. And I'm talking about everything from I sacrifice partying with friends. I sacrifice all the meals. I'm not eating crappy pizza and cheeseburgers. I'm going X amount of weeks. I don't have sex for a long time. I don't there's a lot of things that I'm sacrificing. And my only objective is to hurt this guy and take it out on him for the sacrifices that I had to do because I'm missing time out with my kids. I mean, he just really broke it down. And that was my aha moment. That was when it really clicked. So he even said things like, well, I'm also training, 2-3 times a day. Because keep in mind, I was only training twice a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was when the things really changed. I mean,
that's fantastic.
I can't even tell you, like, other than it was called an aha moment.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, right after that, every day I trained. Every single day. And, the lesson I learned in that was, well, if you're going to go compete with greatness, you too must train like you're going to be great.
Yeah.
And that put me on this trajectory of just onslaughting guys. I mean, even at the point when I met Matthew, I mean, this was 2010 at that time. So by the time Matt and I met, I think we met in Kansas at an event, and I already had probably 15, 20 fights by then. So shortly after I met Matthew, and actually when I met Matt, that was I had attained my first professional title.
Yeah.
So I was already undefeated in K1 style fighting. And so shortly after I met Matthew, which was in 2012, I became the #1 contender. So that put me in line to fight for a world title fight. Now, guess who I had to fight 4 years later?
Not Shepard.
Mike Lightning Shepard.
Oh my God, the guy who taught his future opponent. I love this guy based on how you have a ton of respect for him, don't you?
Oh yeah, that's and Mike and I are still absolute friends to this day.
Beautiful.
Great gentleman, great guy. But I learned a lot of things from Mike, and Mike showed me what it took to become a world champion. What it truly took. That instructor said he planted the seed.
Yeah.
So it was up to me to water it.
Yeah.
But I was only watering it twice a week.
Yeah.
At that time. But Mike showed me how to water that plant every day, feed into it, give it its nutrients, let it nurture and expand and grow.
Yeah, and McDonald's is not nutrition, right?
No.
He shared. Oh, that's so beautiful. How did that go?
Well, it went great. It went great because my physique changed, my endurance changed, everything about me changed. Yeah. And that's the beauty of martial arts. That's what you do as a grand master. You have all these tiers of, first degree, second degree, third degree. You get up to a 10th degree. Well, your first degree is more based on how tough are you? Are you really tough? Did you really master the basics? Cool. We're going to really try to beat you up. But once you get along the martial arts, we get older, Father Time catches up with us. So you can't be 75 years old fighting. So now it's, what can you do to give back to the world to make it a better place? How many people can you duplicate to become like you?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes a man, that's what makes a real martial artist. When you can take everything that you've learned and give it back to people so they can become just as great as you or greater, and not take all that stuff to the grave with you and be selfish and be egotistical, like, well, I'm too good to share my skills with anybody. So he was kind of my grand master in that fighting world. He just didn't know it, and I just didn't know it. But taking all of his knowledge, it just propelled me forward. I went on a crazy fight winning streak. Mike Shepard and I ended up fighting each other 4 years later because he just won another world title at the heavyweight. He just knocked out some guy in Australia, and he looked at it like, oh, Randy Blake's the number one contender. I already beat him. I know I can beat him. So we fought, and I came out on top as a world champion.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, even climbing to the top, there was still some adversity because, adversity doesn't always come with losing and tough lessons like the Mike Shepard thing. Sometimes it's just simplicity of your identity and what people perceive you to be.
Yeah.
So when I started winning these fights, then it became about, well, I want you to win how I want you to win. So for an example, if I knocked a guy out in the first round, well, I would get guys who would say, well, that's not fair. I spent $55 for a ticket, and I didn't get a chance to see what you could really do. Maybe your next fight, you should go and knock a guy out in the 4th or 5th round so we can get entertained. So what does Randy Blake do? I said, okay, well, fine. I'm going to give the people what they want. So your next opponent, you go dancing around, playing around, prolonging the fight, and you knock the guy out, 4th or 5th round, and then you get somebody else over here who says, well, that's not fair because you should have knocked that guy out. You should have steamrolled him. What took you so long?
Yeah.
So if you don't knock the guy out, well, gee, that guy was tough. He almost hurt you. So it was just always something. And then you lose sense of who you are as a person, as a man, as a martial artist, trying to appease the crowd and then seeking for validation that you didn't actually need. So
that's a profound thing to
ahead.
share. So you're talking about being directed either internally or externally. And you learned that directing your life internally is infinitely more powerful, I'm guessing.
Infinitely, yes, way more powerful. Yes, because if you're not happy at the end of the day, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then, you learn all these things in martial arts. You learn about respect. You respect yourself so you can respect other people, and you go through the whole principles of, indomitable spirit and loyalty and honor and perseverance, and you go through the whole nine. But we're all human at the end of the day, and we
Yeah.
too can forget. And that's a saying that one of my coaches uses, and I use it too to this day. Champions don't have to be told what to do, just reminded. And we all need that at times. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
You're not going to remember how to do everything and do it right at all times, but a simple reminder goes a long ways. And
Man.
so that's what I needed to let me know, you know what? I don't need that guy's, validation. I have to do this for me. I'm
Yeah.
the one that's getting in there who has to tussle with that tiger.
Yeah.
That guy doesn't. My reputation's on the line. So if I'm not happy with my performance at the end of the day, then I didn't do myself any justice. So as long as I can make myself happy, that's what matters.
I want to know about mindset, man, as you're in there taking punches and kicks and hurt. You're hurt. What does that take mentally? How can you prepare to overcome those things when you're hurt and taking that beating to stay, on course and keep going regardless of that pain that's got to be flooding your body at that time?
Don't get hit. No, that's a really good question. So we do a lot of impact training. Impact training is just simply, it can be you holding mitts and just taking somewhat of a hit. That still only goes so far, because when you get hit by somebody who knows what they're doing, then it is a matter of, do I want to continue this fight? So you have to always, what I would teach these young guys is, you have to have an end goal in mind. And if you don't have any goals, you probably are going to fail. You probably are going to stop the fight. It's like saying, if you're the world champion and you have a title that's on the line, well, how far are you willing to go? You have to tell yourself these things before you even get out there in the cage or the ring or whatever your platform you're fighting on. That it doesn't matter what this guy does to me. If I lose a finger, my kneecap falls off, I have to be willing to go out on my shield and overcome at all cost. And I learned that back in 2016, because I was already a world champion, and this was going to be my most difficult world title defense. I was fighting a guy from Great Britain, but he was coming to my hometown, my territory. And so when you look up fights, well, when I say you, my coaches, when they look up fights, their job is to find your strengths and apply them to your opponent's weakness. That's just the story of it. And we noticed that every time my opponent at that time would throw a right leg kick, he'd always drop his right hand. So we decided, let's just catch him with a left hook, a left jab, a left hook. Let's take his jaw off. And Randy, you're left-handed, by the way. So that's what we did for 12 weeks. We drilled all kind of left hook combinations and counters and you name it. Well, fight night comes. I'm in the middle of the ring with this guy. We're duking it out, and something happened. And to this day, I don't know what happened. But, and when I say, hey, I don't know what happened, I mean, I don't know what happened to me. So when I threw a knee, I thought I hit my opponent in his stomach, but he called a foul. So we've seen plenty of fights when you get hit in the groin, they call a foul, and you get up to 5 minutes to recover. They stop the fight. They let the opponent shake it off, stomp, do all that. And the opponent, the other guy, which was me, I have to go to a neutral corner. So I look down, like meaning I look down at my left arm, and my bicep right here is rolled all the way up and it's flapping on top of my shoulder.
Wow.
like contracting, like squeezing, contracting. And when I saw it, that is when the pain kicked in. I'm screaming, whoa! So this happened in the first round. And if you know Randy Blake, I'm a prankster. I like to have fun. And when I say pranking, all good type of pranks. So I look over at my coach and I go, Coach, I think I broke my arm. And so coach starts cussing at me. This is a world title fight. Why are you playing games? And I go, no, coach, serious. No, look at my arm. And it's just jiggling. And so what ended up happening was I tore my bicep tendon at the distal end. So you know your bicep is attached by two ends. You got your long head and you got your distal. That's like the worst tear you could ever have, right? So I lost the ability to throw hooks, the thing that I practiced for 12 weeks. And so now we talk about adversity. So when you practice something for so long and it's taken away from you and you can't use it, well, what do you do? What do you do? And you're in here with a highly conditioned athlete. It's the first round. He ain't tired, right? So how do you overcome that? So now that's when having a good team, that's when it's most important. What are they going to say to you? What are they going to instill in you so you can get back out there to attack and win the fight?
I'm just
And
surprised you're still fighting with a torn bicep.
well, I thought because my mindset was still strong. So that's the cool thing about mindset. It doesn't just leave. Like you still have a little bit,
Mm.
a little bit of toughness and all that stuff. But as the fight progressed, the more that I threw my left arm, it hurt. Because keep in mind, after that first round, he came in, or they came in, my coaches, and he said, "Well, what'd you do to it?" And I said, "I don't know." Well, you got to still throw it. You still got another hand. You still have 2 feet. So we got to fight, and you only have 1 minute per round. So it's not like you have 5 minutes to make up some strategic plan. Keep your hands up, throw punches, don't get hit. You got to be quick. Get all your water, Vaseline on, and you got to get back out. So second round, I come out and I said, "All right, I got this. I can do this." And I realized at that time I lost this ability. I couldn't pronate and supinate. So I stopped throwing my left hand. So I tried throwing my right arm and it hurt. It was the craziest thing. The pain would just shoot over to my left arm. So I stopped throwing my right hand. I said, well, surely I can still throw my left and my right kick. Surely, right? I tried both of my kicks. Still, I mean, the pain is just going up. It's excruciating at this time. So now the mental is getting worse and worse and worse. The second round ends. Randy, you didn't do anything that round. I need some activity. I need you to throw some punches. I need you to throw some kicks. Do something. We got to do something. This guy, he's still not attacking you like he should, and you need to take advantage of that before he realizes that your arm is hurt. Because if one kick, you're going to go down. You know this. So protect yourself at all times, but you still need to be active. You need to do something. So at that moment, I was already broke. I'm telling you, I was broken. I was at my all-time low. I'm thinking to myself, I sold all these tickets. I have all my fans and friends here. This is streamed live all over the world. Millions of people are watching it. I'm about to get embarrassed and lose this fight, lose my title, and I don't know how to do it. Do I just take a knee? Do I just not just go back out? What do I do? But I went back out there, and it was interesting because my opponent, he did some things, but it wasn't enough to like take me out.
Yeah.
So the third round ended, and this is where the shift came because in my coach, you have to imagine it's like my coaches remind you of the coaches off Rocky. So you got Mick and you got Apollo Creed's coach, and I had both of those guys in my corner. And so after that third round, they both came running up in there. cussing, and I never will forget this. It gives me chills, man. He's poking me in my chest as hard as he can. You're not doing anything I asked you to do. He says, that belt is about to go on that plane all the way back to Great Britain. And he says, is that what you want? Is that what you want? But obviously, super loud, super aggressive. Cuss words were added in the mix. But honestly, that's what woke me up. And then he slapped me. So I'm like, no, that's not what I want.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a defining moment in that fight, and it shows how important coaches are. So yeah, so even the fighter, yes, we're the one doing the work, but sometimes we can't see within ourselves what other people, other instructors, other coaches can see. So he said, you still got it. You're not going to knock them out tonight, but you still need to go score points. You can go score some points. Guess what? We keep the belt, you know? But if you don't throw any punches in rounds 4 or 5, you're going to lose in your hometown, and that belt's going to leave back home. You know, is that what you want? He was just being real.
Yeah.
That's what you need from a coach. You know, he kept his cool. He kept his composure. He didn't freak out. Oh my gosh, we're going to get hurt. Oh, say your prayers. No, he said, hey, we're still in this thing, but this is what you got to do. This is your Doctor Strange moment. So all the 14 million times aren't going to work, but this is the one thing you have to do.
Yeah.
You do it, we can come out on top. And man, now you talk about fired me up. It fired me up. That pain left for a little bit, you know, so I was able to get out, throw some punches. I was able to drop him. He got back up. He got a standing gate count. The crowd goes crazy. 5th round comes out. I'm just outclassing him now. I'm throwing punches because I'm fired up again. And I got my hand raised. But that taught me a lot about myself and what the real definition of adversity can be.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it can be words, but in this case, it was truly physical. You know, so I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I want to keep this title? Because I don't have to, you know, I don't have to. People would understand, you know, hey, he tore his bicep in the 1st round and he just quit. But, you know, having a coach who makes you realize you're more than just, but you have to go and do that. You have so many other skill sets.
Yeah.
So go use that. Yes, you know, your hammer's not going to work today, but guess what?
Yeah.
You have so many other tools. Go make those tools work. And
You
guess
know,
what? You got 5 minutes left. So
yeah. You know, this is amazing. So to all the people out there listening, everybody has this in them, the ability to overcome the pain, because we recognize in our world right now today, there's more pain and suffering than there has ever been. And it's up to you to realize that you can overcome the pain by intending it, by desiring it, and by saying, I have no other choice. You know, I mean, you had a choice, Randy, and you chose to overcome the pain. In our world today, we have but one choice, and that's to overcome the illusion, the pain, the fear, the suffering, the pride, the arrogance, the humiliation and shame. A lot of people are being programmed to feel by this narrative, this mainstream narrative that is tearing our world apart and dividing us. I want to thank you for your great experience of life that you're sharing. And I just want to invite everybody, because everybody's feeling this from different degrees. Overcome it by deciding you're going to, and then moving forward.
yeah, I appreciate it. And you know, I think you are definitely right about that. We live in a interesting time, but if we can metaphorically speak, I think that's more so than ever, or a great time than ever, to surround yourself around great people.
Yeah.
You know, because adversity truly can win. You know, you can say, can I fight this myself, which is going to be extremely hard? Or if I have a team of people who have my best interests, we have the same goals, you know, we're all disciplined, we all believe in the same thing. If you've got those types of strong-minded people in your corner, you can prevail. You can get your hand raised, and you can become a champion too.
Yes. Everybody listening is a champion in their hearts, their minds. It's just if you don't feel like that right now, then intend it and step into that. Whether it be to be the best parent you could be, to be the best at anything, just find something you're passionate about and then be a champion at that one thing. And then that will filter into all other areas of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. So profound. I love it.
Awesome, brother.
It's not easy, but
yeah,
but having a team makes it easier.
You're right about that. And this is the life we've got. So I would say it's not easy, but it's a whole lot less easy to live the other way. Now, wouldn't you agree it's easier to live as a champion than it is to live as a non-champion?
Absolutely. 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 You know, I look back on the career and I go, man, I was an idiot. You know, but I also look at it and I go, man, I've done some things that not very many people can say that they've done. So I like being on this side of it. It is saying, wow, I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
But this is also why I give back, because I want to bring that and extrapolate that out in everyone. Yes, I may be a champion in the cage.
Yeah.
But you know, my new goal is I'm trying to be a champion in life, making the world a better place. I want to be a champion father. So, and it's just bringing a heightened awareness to everyone. We are all champions. And guess what? We don't have to be told what to do, just reminded. Just a gentle reminder.
What's the name of your book, Randy? I want to make sure everybody knows.
It's called Boom. It's called A True Story of Perseverance, Mental Toughness, and Overcoming Adversity. And a lot of those stories were we talked about in this podcast, but I go into depth detail in the book. And it's a very short read. And I wrote the book like adversity looks. Because most people, you know, like when I do my talks and I go places, people will go, oh, he's a champion and he just had an easy, smooth, long, straight line to his titles. And I have to tell people that's not what success looks like. It looks very skewed, lines and squiggly. So that's kind of how I wrote the book in a way, just so you can understand that, yeah, you can come out on top, but to get there, you're going to go through some detours, some roadblocks. You're going to go through some fire, some tornadoes, but eventually you'll get there.
Yeah. Love it, brother. Well, thank you so much. If you're ever in Florida or when you are, I would love to meet you and show you around our off-grid community. I think you'll absolutely love it. We've got all of the food, water, and energy. We're on a private lake. We've got a runway to our east. It's a magical place, and I'd be really honored to just hang out with you, show you around, and talk more story about how we changed the world.
Man, well, what part of Florida?
In St. Cloud, Florida, near Orlando, about an hour from Orlando.
Okay. Now, I've been to, how far is that from? I've been to Miami and I've been to a place called Boca Raton.
Yeah. We're about 2.5 hours from Boca or 3 hours from Miami.
Okay. Wow. Well, yeah. I got my license, my passport. I got everything I need to come there. So
love it.
Yeah, set the time, man. We make it happen.
I love it, brother. Well,
Beautiful.
Good. Well, Matthew will connect us. And thank you for everything you're doing for the world. And again, share with us where they can find your book. I love these stories about overcoming adversity and becoming champions.
Mm-hmm. So you can get my book. You can go to Amazon, but if you go to my website, randyblakejr.com, I can personally sign an autograph and then send you some things in the mail to go along with that book, and it's a lot cheaper too. So you have two options. You can go to Amazon, or you can go to my website, randyblakejr.com, with an autograph.
Love it.
Beautiful. I just put it up on the screen for everybody to see.
Perfect.
Randy, thank you so much for joining us today on the show, man. It was an honor to have you here and to, dig inside some of your life experience and your fighting experience and what it took for you to become a champion. And I think you will have inspired many people watching today and listening today through your adversity and wisdom, what it took to become a champion, and the resiliency through challenges, and how important that is for success in life, regardless of what it is you're going after. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing today and wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everybody. If you like this message, please share it. And remember, it's time to be self-reliant. It's time to grow food. It's time to get with our communities and to grow our communities. This is what Randy said. Bring your communities in, right? And bring your mentors into your life to the best of your ability. Your mentors could be your next door neighbor. They could be your children. It's all over the place. Our mentors and people that can teach us some stuff. It's time, my friends. It's an interesting world.
Thank you for tuning in. You guys are welcome to hop off. I'll just play a couple quick ads and let you guys get on with your day. Boom, boom. Hey, Jim Gale Show listeners. Again, thank you for tuning in. We love having you here. We're so honored. And, I want to give you a little bit of exciting news. We've decided to offer complimentary food forest strategy sessions with a certified permaculture designer. These are 30-minute sessions where you get to sit down with someone who can really help you with a strategy for your own property. It's a great chance for you to ask some questions and learn and just really to dig into what's possible. This is 30 minutes with someone who's certified, knows all about permaculture and what's possible using this incredible science and working with nature. So head over to foodforestabundance.com and schedule your 30-minute food forest strategy session today. Again, that's foodforestabundance.com. And remember, get yourself registered for that 30-minute strategy session. And for doing so, we're going to give you a $100 coupon as well. So get over there, have some fun, learn about what's possible for you and your own property, and let's get growing some food. Thanks again for tuning in to the Jim Gale Show.
At Weston A. Price Foundation, we're dedicated to restoring nutrient-dense, farm-fresh foods to the human diet. We look to ancient food and health practices for clues on how to live our healthiest, most vibrant lives today. Join the mission and check out our exclusive membership details at westonaprice.org. As a member, you'll receive our quarterly journal on wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts, our annual shopping guide, monthly access to private Q&A sessions with experts, consultations on state laws, regulations, and policies, including food freedom legislation, and so much more. Weston A. Price Foundation. Let's return to wise, traditional foods.